Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit Podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, Summit hosts, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host here on the Virtual Summit Podcast. I am so excited for this episode. We are going to be talking about something that we have never talked about before, and it is probably one of the episodes and information that you most definitely need to know before you host your summit. And all of that is going to be possible because we have the legendary Jackie Kotei with us today. She's going to be giving us some insights into the legal aspects of hosting your virtual summit. Now, before we do that, Jackie, I would love for you to take a few moments and tell our summit hosts just a little bit more about yourself.
Well, yeah, I'm so excited to be here and that we get to talk and hang out with all your guests as well. And I actually just started working as a coach about 6 years ago. And it was one of those things where I was working a full-time job. I had really reached the top of my career where I had the company car and the company credit card and could travel where I want. And I started to think, like, what more do I want to do in the world? What more do I want to be able to experience? And so around that time, I started a blog. I let it sit vacant for an entire year because I was so afraid of what to put on it and what to say. And then as I started to really grow and get more support and more mentorship and more strategy, I basically started to grow my coaching company. And in the beginning, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do what I was doing. And as time went on, I basically started to niche down and get really excited about doing work in the media realm just because that was my background, but doing it in a way that was authentic to me. And so that's really what I'm up to right now, and is helping entrepreneurs and thought leaders get featured in the media and just getting more good stories out there. I think the world needs more stories of people that show what's possible and really have solutions for the problems that we face.
So true. And in that journey, that progression from the career job to the successful entrepreneur now, you've done a variety of summits over the course of that. Some, started at the beginning all the way up to, now. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that first one and one of your most recent ones.
So it's interesting because I have, throughout my entire 6-year journey, been a mom. And I share that because I knew at the beginning that I was not going to be able to go out and build a business the traditional way of meeting people and going to networking events. I couldn't. I had a newborn when I first started my business. And even now, I'm about to give birth again. And so for me, summits were a way to virtually reach hundreds of thousands of people. And that first summit for me was just about discovering the joy within. It was so crazy. It was like, how do you discover the joy within? And it was what I found is that it was really my journey. I was like, how do I learn all these different things to help me have more joy in my life, to be able to enjoy what I was doing in the world, even though I felt stuck at that job. And so that was my first summit. I've done other summits. I did one that was another exciting one that was like, it was called Do What You Love. And it was all about how you get out there and do what you love. And then as I started to get more niche down into what I'm really passionate about, I started to talk about how to change the narrative in the media. That was another summit. It was called Change the News for Good. We've also done summits around podcasts and things like that. And so again, I think often when you're first starting your summit, sometimes it can just be about what excites you and what interests you. And I think if you're excited about it, then people themselves will also get excited about it. And you'll learn so much and have so much fun along the way. That's not what I thought at first. I was like, this is nerve-wracking. But along the journey, it was so exciting to be able to meet great people, learn great things, and also just see the journey looking back.
Virtual Summits software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summits software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
You know, and I love that because there's a lot of our summit hosts that are listening right now that are just getting started. Maybe it's a side hustle. Maybe they're looking to jump into something new and they're not really sure where to get started at. And I love that you kind of painted this, that it can be your journey. You can be learning about yourself. I think that's one of the benefits of doing summits is you actually get to sit there and listen to 10, 15, 20 experts give you their wisdom and insights. So that is a really great information there is don't wait, jump in and do it. Now, with that being said, Jackie, you've done a variety of different types of summits too. So, you know, you've done like multi-day summits. I think you've done summit shows. You've done one-day summits, I believe. Kind of tell me the different style summits you've done and maybe which one, you know, what do you like about each?
It's been awesome. I've done 21-day summits. I've done 28-day summits because I had so many guests that I was like, let's spread it out. I've also done 14-day summits, 3-day summits, and 1-day summits. And I don't know that I have a favorite. Maybe that's a surprise. I think in general, the ones that have been most memorable have been the ones that have really allowed me to connect with an audience. Like I remember the Do What You Love one. That was a 28-day summit. And again, it was just the connection with the audience and the experts that stood out to me. So I think often the different length is really related to what your vision is and what your goal is. And I think that as long as you're really connecting, that is the thing that's like the secret ingredient to success.
Oh my gosh, 28, 21, 5-day, 3-day, 1-day. You really have done all of the type of summits. That's awesome. Now, I want to talk about one little last aspect of this before we go into the legal side of it, is the difference of the summits as they've progressed. You've started a little bit more generic and got a little bit more niche. Let's kind of talk about, you know, what difference that's done and is that beneficial and why?
So in the beginning with the generic one, so I think often entrepreneurs feel like they've got to get it right off the bat. I know that was me with my first blog. I was like so afraid to post because I felt like I had to get it right off the bat. And what I want to tell people is that you will have some people that say yes to your summit just because it's you, just because it's your story, no matter what the topic is. And the reason why I share that is because I have people that were on that very first summit that have followed me ever since just because it was me. And I didn't realize that when I was first growing my audience. And sometimes I think people think, oh, well, I did a summit on this topic and now I want to do this. My list is not valid anymore. And I always tell people it actually is. And so in the beginning, you know, there were people on my list from those summits that were interested in a broad range of things because I gave it a broad title. But as I was able to get niche, it really allowed me to have sometimes easier times launching things on the back end. And also it made it easier for me to make sure that I was speaking to the right kind of audience. And I think that's been the biggest part of me, you know, changing the summit titles throughout the years is to make sure that the message is going to the right audience. I was just training last week at a conference and sharing with them that, you know, when I used to work in television and media, I remember we had the DC or the Columbia Mall shooting. And I was working on that team that did media for that. And I remember that there were 10 different audiences for that one shooting. There were the people that worked inside our department. There were the people that were calling from other government agencies. There were the firefighters themselves. And so I think a lot of times, like when you're thinking about your summit, and even when I look at how minds have changed, it's like the better I've gotten at speaking to the right audience, often the better results I get for the thing that I'm offering or the thing that I'm putting out into the world. And so I think you can have fun with your summits. And often that might be the audience that's excited about the kind of fun you like to have. And so they may say yes to your stuff. But often if you can pick a topic or a theme that really hits the pain points and challenges that people are having, it'll give you better success with the overall outcome of what you're offering on the back end.
I think people forget that sometimes it is important to actually have fun with what you're doing as well, right? It's, you know, yes, we're looking at growing our audience. Yes, we'd love to generate some revenue, but it can be a lot of fun too. It can be a lot of stress as well, but it can be a lot of fun. So I love that. And I do agree. It's okay. We start off general usually because we're trying to figure out where is our voice, as you've mentioned. And then once we start to find that voice, we can get more honed in, and it does. It really strengthens those relationships with our audience and with our message. So love that. Now I want to kind of switch conversations for a little bit and go into another realm that you have expertise in, which is the legal aspect. So give us a little overview of what that is you do there, and then we're going to jump into how we can allocate that towards summits.
Yeah, so it's interesting because this year has been a year of pivots. It's been a year of so many entrepreneurs trying to get their feet back on the ground, figuring out how to make a difference in the midst of so many crises and just unknown things that are happening. I was just posting the other day, like 2020 doesn't need another hour because it's been so crazy. And so for us, we actually pivoted last year around this time, and we became ambassadors for a legal service that we just saw the need for in our own businesses. And so basically, it's giving entrepreneurs access to legal help, legal advice, legal support, who otherwise might be priced out of the legal system. And so it's one of those passion projects. I don't know if you've ever had that, where you wind up finding yourself in something that you never thought you would. But I just had so many clients that were asking me, as they were getting media coverage, what to do about this book deal contract, or, how can I deal with this client who's maybe suing me or not paying me, or, all of these different scenarios that come up. And so we decided to basically join and be partners and be able to support entrepreneurs in this way.
I think it's, as especially newer entrepreneurs, it's one of those things most of us are like, how can we allocate funds to this when I'm, trying to pay my bills? But I think a lot of times it's more of like, if I just don't look at it, it's not real, right? Like if I just don't acknowledge it, it doesn't exist. And unfortunately, it is a real thing. It is something that matters. And that's true across all aspects of your business, of a business. What I want to do is kind of hone into this right now, since we have your expertise, we have your knowledge, both in summits and legal expertise, legal aspects of talking through some of the points or places in a summit that maybe we're most vulnerable at, that maybe summit hosts should be looking at and considering. So maybe what are one or two of the most, the top level areas of a summit that we're open to an issue or a potential problem legally?
So one of the first areas is even naming your summit. And I see this happen all the time when people have come up with this really great idea. They're excited about it. Maybe you go Google and you look and you say, okay, well, no one has the URL. Maybe you go to GoDaddy or whatever domain and you're like, nobody has the URL. I can name my stuff this. I can launch under this. And what I've seen happen with a lot of the people that I coach is that they will do that. And then like midway through, they'll get an email from someone else who's saying, you can't use this name. Now, this, mind you, is after they've produced the banner, they've spent money on recording some of the episodes, they've done all these things already, and it kind of stops them dead in their tracks with what to do. And I know for me, like as I've dealt with different legal things throughout the course of my business, I used to go like consult my husband or Google or my mama or my best friend. And it's like none of them, as much as they love me, none of them could really help me with what to do in that scenario. So that's one of the issues that I see come up all the time. And it could be as simple as, going to Fiverr and getting a banner that looks like other people's banners, or, having name stuff, or having aspects of your summit, or like a principle or something that you teach that is mirroring someone else, or that someone else has a trademark on. And I think often people, again, like you said, they don't think about that because you're so new. You're so new at business that it's not the first thing that you want to think about. It's easier to honestly sometimes avoid it. So that's one of the things that I see. And then the second thing that I see a lot deals with contracts. And, most times when you're doing a summit, you want to have something in writing that talks about when the person's going to appear, or what you can do with the recordings on the back end. You kind of want to have like just a very generic like basic things outlined as far as the agreement goes. And a lot of times, I know for me, when I did my first summit, I was in a program I was paying for. My mentor said, oh yeah, just model ours. So I just copied it, pasted it, changed my name, changed the topic, and I had her contract. And thank goodness nothing happened. But what I've seen happen, especially, it's almost like you create a pattern at that time that follows you through your business. Because what did I do with my programs? I did the same thing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to use my coach's contract, until it got to a point where I had issues with clients. And because the contract was different in her state than it was in my state, and because we're in different niches, you know, she might be this kind of coach and I'm this kind of coach, there were issues that came up that weren't consistent. So those are two areas that I really see. A lot of times people just wing it, they Google it, they ask a friend, they phone a friend, and often that doesn't work in scenarios like that.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your Virtual Summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
So with that kind of like naming scenario, the content, are you recommending then they get some insights from a legal personnel or person to give them insights in whether they could use it, or how do you recommend they go about naming?
That's a great question. So, I mean, you can definitely do the due diligence of looking the name up and things like that. But typically you want to be reaching out to a lawyer to have them check the trademark to make sure that those trademarks are not, or what you're naming it is not in violation of a trademark that's out there or copyright that's out there. So that's one conversation that, and let's just say, you know, if you had I think the beautiful thing is that if you had access to a lawyer for less than $100 a month, would you call them and ask them different questions like this? And so I think that's the beauty, is being able to call and just say, hey, is this trademarked? You know, is this copyright? How can I go around about using this name? Can you review this contract for me and make sure that the contract is good for what it is that I'm going to do? All of those kinds of things are really powerful ways to be able to use legal advice, especially with your summit. And then, of course, kind of for those scenarios that come up that no one can anticipate. And I'm sure, Mark, if you and I were like sitting somewhere and having a drink, we could toss stories of legal things that you never thought would come up. And I think a lot of times just having some place that you can call and ask advice for is a really powerful way to be able to get legal counsel versus just trying to, I know for me, I was like calling my coach and like, okay, what should I do? So I think that those are kind of some of the questions that you want to be asking is this copyrighted? Does it have a trademark? If someone actually says that it does, what are my rights in this scenario? How do I handle this scenario? What's some things that I might want to document? When it comes to contracts, making sure that your contract is legal in the state that you're in, but also in the niche that you're in. I have a lot of clients that are health clients that have a whole different set of rules than sometimes business coaches do. And so there's certain things they can and cannot tell patient or, clients, even though it's not a patient. And so those kind of things you want to just make sure you're covered on, and that it's not something you're winging, because I've literally lost like thousands of dollars because I just winged it, and it's like, it's kind of the hard way to learn.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, especially if you're in a professional industry, there are things that you can and cannot say, or that you at least have to document, specifically in the medical or health field. I also know, like, I was surprised when I first got started in online business that you had to, post on your website and make it super clear that this is an affiliate offer. Otherwise you could, be in trouble with that as well. And so there are a lot of things out there that, hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't impact people, but it's better, to just know in advance than to wing or hope it. I was going to say a great story of this, or a great example of this, is my good buddy John Lee Dumas, who runs EO Fire, Entrepreneurs on Fire. And he was about 6-7 months into his podcast when Entrepreneur, the magazine, reached out and said it used to be Entrepreneur on Fire, and said you can't use that word. And it wasn't, it was Entrepreneur on Fire. It was a full sentence, and they said no. And some places like that, they have the funds and the ability and, you know, the desire to just throw money at you until you have to just give up. So he was creative. Luckily, he has his father is an attorney, and they found a way to make it okay. But you know, you just don't think about that stuff in advance. So this is really great. Any other kind of thoughts or ideas when it comes into summits, like when it comes to summits, the aspects other than the name, the content? What about, you know, we talk. This is because this actually, I got an idea for it. I got a question. This comes up a lot when people reach out to me about contracts, but let's talk about the reason for it. Is we're doing a recording of somebody else giving their content. They're giving their advice, their information on the summit. What is, you know, some of those things we should be aware of? And, you know, with that, like we have a video of this speaker giving away this. Is it possible for that speaker a year later to say, hey, I don't want you to play that anymore? Like, kind of talk to us through some of those challenges that could arise.
That's one of the biggest pieces that are included in the contract, is how you're going to use the person's likeness and voice and offer and things like that. And that actually varies sometimes state by state, you know, and even country by country. Like some states you can't record people without their explicit permission and so forth. So I think that that's a key piece. And if you do have a contract and you don't have that language in there, that's a piece that you want to make sure that you not only have in there, but that you also sometimes share it with the expert to make sure that they're okay with it. And I've had some experts come back to me and say, hey, you can use this, but if you're going to put it in a paid offer, like we need it tweaked to say this or to say that. And so that's a key piece. And that's something that I think, you know, I've never had issues with experts that have come back. I've had some issues, like maybe less than a handful, that have said, oh, like you're going to use this down the road for something and, you know, may want a certain fee or something. But I think that that's a piece that you want to be mindful of. And the other thing that I think comes up with summits sometimes that people forget about is that you also are going to be sharing the videos and sharing the recordings in lots of different ways. And you want to sometimes make sure that the platforms that you're sharing them on, that the experts are okay with that as well. So I think most issues happen, and I don't know if it's just sometimes you have crazy people out there that are seeking to do the wrong thing, but I think that's sometimes why you want to be protected and why you want to have peace of mind around it. Because at the end of the day, it's like you never know where it's going to come from. I remember I got sued, or I shouldn't say sued. I had a client that wanted a refund 3 years ago. And I remember thinking, like, we had already done the service. We had already booked them on media. We'd already delivered on our end of the, and I had team to pay. I had staff to pay. And I remember thinking, like, I would have never thought this person would have, like, went to these lengths, because it was a referral from, like, someone who was a friend. And so it's like, I think that's the thing that sometimes happens, is that people think that they're okay until it happens. And that's where you really want to have the peace of mind. And I don't ever want anyone, I think it's a sad day when entrepreneurs go through the struggle and the heartache around legal scenarios. I remember that scenario thinking, man, like, I don't know what to do. And it, like, messed up my whole day, you know? And so it was like, it was just crazy. And I think about the fact that so many people don't have parents or fathers or connection that they can go to and get legal help. And so that's why I think it's really important to know that there's options that exist and there's things out there that you can really do to support yourself in these areas before it happens.
Yeah, it's always better to try and get this done before, because when you are in the middle of it, and I've experienced a variety of different aspects in the legal side of things, and we have several lawyers on our team, but it does put you in a different position. You're not in that creative space. It's, you know, it is a difficult moment. And I would say anybody that's in that is understand you will get through it. You will always survive. It always seems worse at that moment, but it's always better to also be able to protect yourself. And I think another area of this, not just with summits, and for people as they expand, as they grow, like, you know, when you're just getting started, you don't think about this, and it's hard to think about this. But as you start to get success, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that will like to copy, take your stuff and use it. We see this all the time in our space and a lot of our friends' space. You know, their material, their courses, somebody will buy their course, record the whole thing, and then sell it just like that. So having somebody, to understand how to protect yourself and what to do in those situations is good as well. So Jackie, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I want to kind of open it up a little bit more to any insights now with summits, because you have had so much experience with every type of summits. I'd like to kind of talk about some of the challenges that you see summit hosts, because you also have a lot of friends that do summits as well. The challenges that you're seeing summit hosts go through, like maybe what's one of the top challenges that they experience, and maybe a tip or a suggestion on how they can overcome that.
I think on the front end, no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, you're always asking yourself, like, am I good enough? And I remember experiencing that at the front end of my journey. But even now, like when I think about going to seven figures and multiple seven figures and things that I launched that I've never launched before, it still comes up. Is like, am I good enough? Is this going to work? Is this going to be? And so I think that that's a challenge that you have no matter what you're doing. The thing that I'm seeing right now across the board as far as summits go is making sure that they have a summit that's appealing enough that people say yes to being a part of it. And, it's like, that is some people, and I, I know you probably talk a lot about this, Mark, but some people think it's saturated. I always feel like when you've got something that you've positioned well and that is really making a need, you can still get such a great response. And so that's the biggest challenge, is making sure that what it is that you're offering is actually meeting a need, that it's standing out, that maybe you have a position on it. When I talk about position, we can have the same apple, and one person can say, this is the apple that made Snow White come alive. And the other person can say, oh, this is the apple that I just bought from the farmer's market. And it's like, which one do you want? And so same apple though. And so that's what you want to be doing, is thinking about how can you position what it is that you're offering in a way that's really relevant to what's happening in the world. And when we look at what's happening in the world right now, there's so many people looking for solutions. There's so many people looking for ways to be able to feel like they're not losing control in the midst of everything that's happening. And so if you come out with a summit right now, be thinking about what people need and what people want. And I think that's going to really help you overcome the challenge that people are facing of not having a lot of people tune in to what it is that they offer.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go with the apple from Snow White and then the apple with Adam and Eve. I thought we were going to go in those two contracts. No, but to jump on what you were just saying there, it is so true. We all hear, oh, there's so many summits happening right now. But I like to always put it back into reality or into perspective. Like right now, currently, there's over 250,000 webinars every month, and there's less than 1,000 summits every month. Last year, there was less than 3,000 summits in the entire year. Now, of course, we've seen that expand this year, which is a good thing, but it always comes down to just what you said right there. I think we also have to kind of get past the vanity numbers. It's not about getting 10,000 leads, which is, the thing that a lot of people used to talk about. My summit did 10,000 leads. It's more about having a qualified and engaged audience. I mean, 100, 500 people, 1,000 people, that's a six-figure and beyond company right now if they're engaged and qualified. So I'm glad you made that point there, Jackie, because it is important really to position it and make it aligned with, again, what is it that you do, what are you passionate about, and what are you trying to offer. So Jackie, I know everybody's like, Mark, where's Jackie hanging out? I need more Jackie in my life. So why don't you let everybody know where you're at? What's the best way to get in touch with you so they can reach out and follow up?
Absolutely. So my website, More Good Media, is a great way to check out what we're doing and what we're up to. And then I hang out a lot on Facebook. So send me a personal Facebook friend request. Say that you heard me on Mark's show, and I'm happy to connect and answer any questions. And I'm happy to also, and I don't know if you want me to do that here, Mark, or later, but we, have a free download of a link for the legal app that I talked about. So would happily share that with you guys and get that out to you as well, so you have an option.
Excellent. We'll make sure that gets in the show notes over there. So make sure you're checking out the show notes. Jackie, I'll let you end this with one final parting piece of wisdom.
So I think the biggest piece of wisdom that I can share is just go ahead and get your message out there. I cannot tell you how much of my life I've really missed out on just waiting and feeling like I've needed to get it perfect. And so just knowing that even if you're doing a summit on health, and there are all 1,000 summits that Mark talked about are happening this year on health, you could still have a voice and have a place and do it in a way that's completely authentic to you, and that makes a difference for someone that never would have been impacted in that way. So just know that you have a place, that you belong, that you have a voice that needs to be heard and needs to get out there.
Love that. Oh, so good. Jackie, thank you so much for hanging out and sharing your time, your energy, and your wisdom with us today.
Thanks, Mark. It was so much fun.
And thank you, Summit hosts, for hanging out with Jackie and I. I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, your host here on the Virtual Summit Podcast. Remember, your message matters. And one of the most powerful ways to get that message out to the world is with a virtual summit. So make sure you check out the show notes, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit Podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.